Hi, Mike's Carburetor Parts here. I'm going to rebuild this Edelbrock 600 carburetor. This is a 600 for economy, they call it. There's a 600 for high performance, and I just might point out that just putting a bigger carburetor on, or a high performance carburetor, may or may not help your performance. When you get a bigger carburetor, you need a bigger engine, or something like a cam or high performance intake manifold. Anyhow, the end result is you need something that's going to use up the extra gas you're going to get. So just, people do it all the time. They put this huge carburetor on their car, and they wonder why they have so much trouble. Anyhow, that being said, here we go. We're taking the top off. I got one of the metering rods out. Take the other one out here, the metering rod and the metering rod piston. Okay. And there's a little spring down here. It goes under the piston. So, take the screws out of the top. Alright, we got some clips to take off of the, here's the clip holding that rod on. Get that off of there. And we got one on the choke lever here. Okay. And let's take off the accelerator pump lever here. And it just unscrews. Okay, got a little S hook. Top off, get our pump out of here, return spring. Okay, let's take our floats out. Try to use a big screwdriver to get these seats out so that I don't damage the top of them, which really doesn't hurt anything. The fuel goes in through the center of it, but you don't want to chip too much away at the top, or it'll become hard to get in and out. Okay, fuel inlet off. Now on this one I got this spring filter. It does not have to go in there. Okay, I'll explain that later. Alright, there's the top. I'm going to take the main discharge out. So to clean this, go down to your favorite auto parts store and buy yourself a gallon of carb cleaner to boil out your carburetor. Don't use the spray stuff. That's not going to do you any good. You need to soak your carburetor. Length of time depends on the manufacturer, so be sure to read the directions, because if you leave it in too long, the outside plating of the carburetor will be damaged. It will turn color. So this is your main discharge. So when you pump all your gas, step on your gas, this is where the gas will come out. You see those two little brass tubes right out the front here. That's where you'll see the squirt. So if you have any questions about your accelerator pump not working right, you know, look in your carburetor with the engine off, of course. Step on the gas, and you should see two strong squirts come out of those. So when you're cleaning, be sure those are nice and clear. Blow out all the orifices, and You might even get some thin wire and run it down there. Ethanol residue gets in there and you can't blow it out. Alright, so here's your check weight and check ball. Check ball goes in first. We'll take those out. I've had this apart a couple of times, so I actually did one video, but it turned out too dark, so I decided to do it again. Idle mixer screws out. So these holes in the top of the venturis are, some of them are vent holes, so you want to be sure those are nice and clear and cleaned out. Let's see if I can do this with my hand. Okay. These are the secondary venturis. Primary venturis, the ones over here, you can get them switched around if you're not careful. What's important on those is you see a little slot down there, and there's a little slot in the venturi right here. So that's what you want to be sure that gets lined up. I don't think the secondaries can go in the wrong hole. This baffle out. I'm going to leave the other baffle in. It's I never remembered how to get them back in there, which way they go, so I'll leave the one in. Okay. On this particular one, you want to mark your jets. They're probably stamped on the top, but you want to be sure, and this one's kind of hard to get to. This is your primary jet right here, the one the metering rod goes in. In this particular carburetor, the primary jets are bigger than the secondary. On most Edelbrock, it's just the other way around. So be sure and mark. And what I do a lot of times, just tag them so I know which hole they go in, just to be sure. Okay, I'll take the thermostat off. Don't assume your carburetor was put back together correctly the last time, or that it even has the correct parts in it. Okay, we got the gasket, little heat shield in here. Get that screw off because I know it's going to give us trouble. Okay. Let's see, I think this is the little one. Okay, so there's 3 screws holding this on. So I'm not going to take the throttle plates apart or the throttle shafts. You can if you want. I suggest, unless you have a good reason to leave them alone. Too much big of a chance of damaging them, breaking screws, etc. So unless you got corrosion or they seem real sticky, I would just leave them alone and clean it and get it back together. So this piston here, if it doesn't move really free, take it apart and buff it off so it moves free. The only thing that moves around is vacuum, and what that is your vacuum brake. When the engine is cold and your choke is closed and then you stomp on the gas, you don't want it to die out, so this piston will open up the choke valve just a little bit, let some more air in. That's what that's all about. Okay. Alright, so like I say, that's as far as I'm going to take it. These are real nice. They've been running on a vehicle, so I know they're okay. So there you go. That's the tear down part of it, cleaned up. We'll come back and I'll show you how to put it back together. Okay, let's get this Edelbrock back together. First I'm going to put the jets back in. I only took one side out. I really didn't need to take both out in this case. Okay, so remember on this particular one, the bigger jet went in the primary, which is right here where the meeting rod goes. And the smaller one goes in the secondary. It's just the opposite on most. Alright, put this in here. This is an auxiliary valve. It goes like this because it, yeah, so has to work like that. Going like that, you're okay. Go ahead and throw the secondaries on there. I got the gaskets on there. And let's see, this one goes on this side. Don't think you can get them wrong. Make sure you tighten up your screws in sequence. You don't want your, you want these to sit flat. Okay. Same thing over here. This little bit of gasket sticking over isn't going to hurt anything, as long as you make sure it's not going to get cause the venturi to get caught to one side or something. If you ever have a venturi that's leaking gas out of it at idle, that is one possibility to check, is that the gasket is holding it up. Okay. Get a Okay, there we go. Okay, let's go ahead and put the primary's in, remember there's a little slot here. That's what you want to match up with. There you go. Okay, same thing with that one. Put your gasket on here. Okay. Okay, let's don't forget our baffle. Left the other one in there just so I don't have to fight it. I forget every time which way it goes. Okay, let's see. Let's do our main discharge here. Remember, we got a little check ball that goes in the hole. And we got the check weight. And what that does is check weight holds check ball down and keeps the fuel from leaking through it when you don't need it. When you press on the gas, the pressure of the fuel will pick up on that weight and check ball and allow the fuel to flow through that same hole and out these two here. So it's very important all that's working. If you want, you can put a little fluid in here at this point and put the auxiliary pump in there and, you know, push it down so it forces some fuel up through there to make sure that's open. That's a good thing to do before you put it all back together. And if you hold down that check ball with the brass punch just gently and then push down on the auxiliary pump, you should feel a little bit of pressure. Okay, where'd my torque thing go? It was right in front of me here. Okay. Using tools. There it is. Okay. Up. Alright, the return spring in here for the accelerator pump, and we'll put that to the side for a minute and we'll work on the top. Okay, so first thing we want to do is put in our seats. Okay, our kit comes with a little screen here. Don't forget your little metal washer. Okay. Now this side I'm not putting one, only in this particular case because I got another screen that goes in the inlet and it gets in the way of this little screen, so just leave it off. And I actually prefer just putting screens on both these nylon seats and leaving the one out of the inlet. If you can figure out how to get them both in there, that's cool too. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and put the gasket on here, like so, and we'll get the needles in here. Be careful of your black Viton tip. any pressure at all will cause them to get damaged, and then you'll have a fuel leak and they'll flood out the carburetor. So to adjust the float level on these, you bend it right here. To adjust the float drop, you bend this little tang right here. I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so this one needs to come up a little. Like I say, be careful of your needle that you don't damage it. So the measurement here is 5/16 from the gasket up to the bottom of the float, and it should be almost level. Okay, same thing on the other side. And on the drop, it's 15/16. This one's way too high, from here to about a ½ inch in. Okay, the main thing is that it drops enough to let the needle out, or let the needle open, and not too far that it lets the needle fall out. Bend that just a little bit here. Alright, there we go. Okay. Alright, so let's get our auxiliary pump. The top of your auxiliary pump well is much bigger. See, it doesn't look like it fits, but it does. When it gets down closer to the bottom, that's when it tapers down. So they never are really tight. So just keep that in mind. You get a lot of inquiries about that. Okay, so I'll put that in there. Let me take a quick look around here. Usually I forget something. Doesn't look like I did. Like that. Okay, there we go. I'll get us some screws started here. I lost the original torque type screws, so I had to go get these, which do fit. Doesn't really make any difference. Okay. So again, you want to tighten these in sequence so you don't get it all warped out of shape. Just keep going across the carburetor from one corner to the other. Don't force anything. Make sure the plunger is going to go up and down okay. Keep chemicals away from your carburetor when you're rebuilding it, especially WD-40. Don't put any chemical in your carburetor. Once you get it cleaned in your gunk and you wash it off with hot water to get all the chemicals off, and then you blow everything out with air. My dog thinks he's a guard dog today. Okay, there we go. Got that in there. Let's get the metering rods in. We don't want to bend them, so we're going to be careful. First we put the spring that goes underneath the piston. I should show you this little spring here. I do have a video on how to put these on, but a little spring here holds the metering rod on. Okay, It's like this. The little hook goes towards the top. Slip it on there. Put that little hook right about where the hole is. Kind of hold it down. Put the metering rod in the hole. And all done. All that spring needs to be underneath the metering rod all the way around. Okay, that's it. Okay, I know the spring's probably hard to see. All right, so we're careful about when we put this metering rod in there. We don't want to bend it. We do have them available, but no reason to replace them unless they're bent. Same things with your jets, unless you're having some kind of a deal where you've moved and you got an altitude change or something like that. If they've been running, you know, for a while on your car, you probably don't need to change them as far as size goes. They don't get wore out. So if all of a sudden you're got black smoke and all that, everybody wants to change their jets first thing, and that's the last thing it probably is. The jets just don't change. Now, you bought the carburetor swap meet or something, or you had an altitude change, different story. Okay. So I'm careful not to bend the metering rod, as I say. Put the spring in there, because that metering rod goes right into the primary jet, and it's pretty loose in there. It doesn't fit tight. They're not supposed to. All they're doing is taking up some space. So at idle, the metering rods are down. There's no vacuum to pull them up, or excuse me, there's maximum vacuum, so they're all pulled down and more or less plugging the hole up. And then as you accelerate, you lose vacuum and the metering rod starts to come up. And what holds the metering rods from coming up, or helps them come up, I should say, are a little spring that goes underneath the piston. Okay, so that was in there. Alright, so let's put, I'm going to throw this on. So this has a little, it's an aluminum washer coated with a rubber substance. Don't over tighten them. That's what warps them out of shape. Okay. Get our little hook in here. Okay. Over so you can see it. This special screw that goes in there. Now I lost the rod that goes from here down to the throttle, but you've mounted into the middle hole, and there's instructions that explain all that. Rod in here, a little clip. Okay. You want to make sure nothing's binding as you go along. Then throw the little mixture screws in. So you turn them all the way down till they seat gently. Not too hard or you'll damage them. Then you turn them out 1.5 turns to 2 turns. You'll adjust them after the engine is at operating temperature, and you got the engine idling. It doesn't do any good to adjust these with the engine idling too fast, because once you get up over idle, it's the idle circuit is no longer in use, so adjusting won't do you any good. Okay, so alright, choke housing. You got your little rubber gasket that goes in here. Okay, and I think I want to put this on now, because it's kind of a pain to get it on later. Just like that. Get the holes lined up. Okay. These longer screws. Okay, that was started. So these Edelbrocks aren't too hard to do. Of course, like I tell people, ask me, can I overhaul my own carburetor? And I said, yeah, almost anybody can. And when you have problems, that's when experience kicks in. So, but chances are, if the carburetor's been run on the car or just got dirty or whatever, you know, you're not going to run into any problems. It's basically take it apart, clean it, put it back together the way it was, and you'll be good to go. It's the carburetors you don't know about, where they've been, that is a big question mark. People do some really strange things in these Edelbrock. Lots of videos out there on how to modify your Edelbrock. Good way to ruin it in many cases. If you want a hotter, bigger Edelbrock, I'd say go get a different Edelbrock. Okay, enough with the speeches. See there? And like I say, when it's cold and you step on the gas, the vacuum brake's going to open your choke a little bit, just let some air in, otherwise it's going to choke it out. Alright, let's get our thermostat on here. Oops, wait a minute, put the, okay. You can survive without this plate in there. It's a nice thing to have because it does keep the heat into the choke where it belongs. Okay, and this part here goes up against this little green lever there, and that's what's going to close the choke. There we go. Okay, I'm going to loosen it up here so I can get this, get these screws in here. A Phillips screw. Okay. So I got one too tight here. Turn it. Alright, so start turning it. There's a little index mark on the thermostat and the housing, and on this one that's just about where it wants to be. I just push down on it. A little bit of pressure. UPS mark. Okay. Quiet. Come on, I'm doing a video. Alright, so there we go. We got it together. And the adjustments are illustrated very well in the sheet here, in the instruction sheet. So use that to get your things adjusted. And other than that, we're good to go. I thank you for watching.